Then after we got back from Salt Lake and got married, it was so funny. While we were in the temple, I was nursing Franklin, and they had him in the nursery, and he got to crying, and the sisters brought him to me, and they let the presidency that was officiating said, well, we've got to have a sharp break. He said, we don't do this very often, but we've got a baby that has to have its mother's milk, so we'll just excuse that mother and let her go nurse that baby. And then when they brought Franklin to me, he was going, just a sobbing. And when he saw me, he just put his arms around me and just loved me. And so I took him out and I nursed him, and then he went to sleep, and I gave him back to the sister. And when I went back in with one of the other matrons, he said, now, brothers and sisters, we can complete our services, or our temple ordinances now. So we went through the temple and finished it out. And then when we came back, we decided that Grandpa and Grandma Cook wanted to go on a mission. And Grandpa decided he wouldn't farm anymore, and so Cleo bought his machinery, and Grandpa and Grandma Cook went on a mission. See, Grandpa was on a mission in California when Virgil died, and they let him come home. But they told him he could finish the mission if he wanted to. And so then he took Grandma back with him. And because when Grandpa went the first time, he didn't take Grandma with him, and we never could figure out why. But he figured that he always called her the wife. He said, the wife needs to be home to watch the kids. Great Scott. Excuse me again.
Okay, we're back in business.
Okay. Well, Grandma Cook went to California on a mission, so Cleo and I moved into 2 rooms upstairs. I had a bedroom and a kitchen. Now, his sisters had the other bedroom upstairs, and I said to him, now, and they were going to school, and I said, now, when you guys leave your room, for heaven's sakes, shut your door. And I said, and for goodness sakes, please, keep the gate locked. So that, because Franklin was getting, so he was, crawling around, running around a bit. Well, one morning, they didn't. And I put him out in the hallway to play. And lo and behold, he got into their room. He got into their rouge. He got into their lipstick. He got into their perfume. He had powder in his hair. Oh, he looked like a circus clown. Well, when I got him in, when Cleo come, I had to have him bring our bathroom was a round tub. And Cleo brought the tub up, and I heated the water on the stove, and I gave Franklin a royal bath. And when the girls come home and they saw their room and all their makeup, they were quite unhappy. And I said, well, that's what you get for leaving the door open. I said, I told you to be sure to lock it. And they said, well, we locked the gate. I said, yeah, but you didn't shut your door tight. And I said, the little fella went in there. But after that, the door was kept shut. When Grandpa and Grandma Cook come home from their mission, we moved back into Roberts, Idaho. We had a small 2-roomed house. And then we moved in there on the 26th of May, 1940. And Grandpa didn't want Cleo to move. He thought he should stay out there. And I said, no way. No house is big enough for 2 women that wants to work in the kitchen. I said, I love Grandma Cook, and I always want to love her, and we're moving. So we moved back into there. I felt like that we should have a place of our own. And while we were there, we lived there in there. It was funny. We rented a home from Bessie Jones. And believe you me, the day that rent was due, the morning that rent was due, that lady was at my door at 7 o'clock in the morning for that money. And she stayed there until she got the money. And then she would leave. But she was a very tight lady. She didn't want to furnish any paint or anything like that. But that was the breaks of life, I guess. When Franklin was a baby, I'll have to tell you this. He'd probably get a kick out of this. I was nursing him, and evidently I didn't have quite enough milk or quite enough nourishment in it. And he was crying quite a bit, so the doctor told me to feed him graham crackers and soaked in milk and bananas, mashed bananas. And which I did, and to this day Franklin Cook does not like bananas. because I think I fed that to him 3 times a day, and in between time, every time he opened his mouth, he got mashed bananas stuck in it. And he just, he don't like mashed bananas. He don't like bananas for this. But it was in we decided we'd have another little son come to our home. His name was Theron Earl Cook, and he was born the 24th of May, 1941. And when it was time for me to go over to Mrs. Hanson's again, I went over to her place. She was such a gracious lady. She only charged me $10 for the time I was there, and that's quite a big difference from what they charge now to have a baby. But and she took such good care of me. But at that time, why Cleo was out on the canal bank killing the crickets. We had a siege of crickets that come to Roberts. And his 2 sisters, Theola and Melba, come to my home, and I asked them if they'd please go find Cleo, that I needed to go to the hospital or go to Mrs. Hanson's to have the baby in. So they went down the canal bank hollering at Cleo, and they finally found him, and he came in, and we got over to Robert, or over to Rigby, and I had the baby over there. And Atha went with me again. She was real good about going with me. Now, Atha Dawn was born on the 15th of April in 1941, and they lived in Roberts, in this house there, and that she got someone to stay with Dawn, and she went over there with me. And then in 1942, my grandpa decided he wasn't going to farm anymore, and so Cleo bought out all the machine and everything from him again, and got things all straightened out again, and they moved into Roberts. And we moved out into the house where Cleo's family lived out north of Roberts. And then in 1943, we had a lovely daughter come to our home, and her name was Joyce. And she was born on November the 6th, 1943, and it was very, very cold night. Just crystal clear cold. And at that time, I went to Mrs. Warren Hall's home in Rigby because Mrs. Hanson wasn't doing it anymore. Now, when Joyce was born, she was born with a kind of like a fine skin over her face, and that they called it a veil. And Mrs. Hall said that when the children were born, or babies were born like that, they were called Holy Child. And to me, she was a special baby, and just a beautiful baby girl, and as she is today. And we named her Joyce. I've always liked the name of Joyce, so I got to name her Joyce. Cleo said, "You're going to put another name with it?" And I said, "No, Joyce is plenty, because when she gets married, she's got another one tacked onto her, so she doesn't need any more." Well, we were living, as I say, we were living on the farm, and when Joyce got a little older, Franklin Theron was real happy with their little sister. They stayed with Grandpa and Grandma Cook when Joyce was born, and when Cleo went home and told them they had a little sister, they thought that was pretty super, because they had wanted a little sister. But when Joyce got a little older and she could go out and play, I had them play with her outside, and they had a little sand box thing up on the west side of the house, and had cars and was playing in it. But every now and then they'd get tired of having to watch her sister, and I guess this one day they got tired of watching her because I went outside to see how things was going, and there was just Franklin and Theron, and I said, "Where's Joyce?" "I don't know," Franklin says. Theron says, "I don't either." Well, I began to hunt. I looked in the chicken coop, and I looked around the barn, over the haystack, and we had a dry bed water running through our place, and I went out down there, and I couldn't see where she'd been down there, and I came back, and I said, "You know what, you kids, you boys were supposed to watch your sister. I can't find her. Where is she?" Then we had an outhouse away from the house on the west side of the house, and now this outhouse is a place where we call bathrooms nowadays. But there was no water running, and it was just a plain thing that you sat down and did your daily duties on. Okay. As I got out there closer to that, I could hear somebody sobbing, but the door was shut, locked on the thing. But I opened it up, and there was Joyce. They had locked her in there, because they got tired of playing with her. And they'd locked her in there, And she had cried herself to sleep, and her face was all dusty and everything. And I got her out of there, and I loved her. And I took her back over to where the boys was, and I said, now, what would you have done if your sister had fallen down that toilet hole? Darren said, we'd have to scooped her out of the poop, Mom. I said, I paddled him on the bottom, and for that, and I paddled Franklin. And in fact, I was spanking Theron harder because I was so mad for what he said. But that was Theron. He was something else to behold.